Welcome to This Explainer. Look, today we're going on a bit of a journey. We're going to look at the chronological success story of how an organization transforms from a completely chaotic, disjointed blank slate into a mature, well-oiled enterprise architecture powerhouse. If your team is just beginning its journey with the TOGAF timework, well, you're absolutely in the right place. We're going to explore the core concepts and key benefits of this structure for teams that are brand new to enterprise architecture, and we'll walk through the exact step-by-step preparation you need to take before you design a single system.
Okay, let's dive into this. The source material hits the nail on the head here, stating perfectly that enterprise architecture provides a strategic, top-down view of an organization. I want you to think about why that top-down blueprint metaphor really matters. I mean, you'd never pour the concrete foundation for a massive skyscraper without having the blueprints first, right? Well, in the business world, it's the exact same thing. Executives, planners, and engineers need this strategic context so they can actually coordinate and integrate all their activities without stepping on each other's toes. Before the real building begins, we've got to prep the site.
So here's our chronological roadmap for today that'll take us step by step through this whole prep process. We're starting with 1, starting your architecture journey. Then 2, scoping the enterprise. Next is 3, building the governance team, followed by 4, establishing guiding principles. Then we hit 5, merging frameworks and methods, and finally 6, equipping for long-term success. All right, let's get moving.
Section 1. Starting your architecture journey. Every successful project has to start at step 0, defining the where, what, why, who, and how we actually do architecture.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that highlighted yellow circle sitting right there at the very top of the architecture development method, or ADM. Notice how it sits completely outside the main cyclical process below it? That's because it's the vital preparation phase. You see, the TOGAF standard itself is actually made up of 6 independent documents, which honestly can seem a little daunting at first. But here's a pro tip. Leverage the TOGAF library early on. You can use its pre-built reference models and guidelines to dramatically accelerate your setup. It's basically a shortcut to adapt this generic framework into something highly specific for your own organization.
Section 2. Scoping the enterprise. Moving to our next milestone, because, again, you can't build that skyscraper without accurately surveying the property lines first.
We really need to know exactly who is going to be impacted by this new enterprise architecture capability. And we do this by identifying 4 distinct groups, sort of radiating outward from the center. First up is our core enterprise. These are the units most affected, who will get the most value right away. Second, we have the soft enterprise. Now, these are units that aren't directly affected, but they're definitely going to see a change in their capabilities and workflows. Third is the extended enterprise. These are outside units whose own architectures will be impacted. And finally, the broader communities and governance groups, which brings in legal frameworks and even geographical considerations. Now, a really smart incremental adoption strategy here is to focus solely on that core enterprise first. Prove the value there, get some quick wins, and then scale outward to the extended enterprise and the broader communities.
Section 3. Building the governance team. Now that we know exactly who is on the property, we need to assemble our site managers and secure a project sponsor. Having a sponsor is absolutely imperative here. You need them to ensure the project actually has the resources to proceed and the clear backing of business management. So, to build this governance team and set up the capability, we've got to execute a rapid-fire sequence of actions. We assess our current maturity, basically using a capability maturity model to see exactly where we stand. Then we identify gaps in existing work areas, allocate key roles and responsibilities, determine our constraints, and crucially, assess our budget requirements and lock that in with our sponsors. Boom, team assembled.
Section 4. Establishing guiding principles. All right, the crew is assembled, the budget is secured. Now it's time to hand everyone the rule book. And we call this rule book the architecture principles. Simply put, these are critical rules that dictate exactly how we do things, and they are firmly rooted in broader business principles. The truth is, you simply cannot have successful architecture governance without these pre-established, agreed-upon constraints. It just doesn't work. By defining these principles early, we make sure that all future architecture work actually aligns with the strategic intent and cultural aspirations of the whole organization.
Section 5. Merging frameworks and methods. This is super important because a huge pitfall for new teams is trying to build in total isolation. Our framework has to integrate with existing operations.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how we do that. Notice how enterprise architecture, driven by the architecture development method right there in the center,
doesn't operate in a vacuum. It overlaps perfectly with business capability management. It seamlessly touches project and portfolio management, operations management, and solution development. As an enterprise architect, you can't just put on blinders and narrowly focus on IT implementation. You've got to be completely aware of how your architecture impacts the entire enterprise ecosystem.
Let's move to the next slide and see how this builds out into a structured operational flow. Look at the orange box. Enterprise architecture acts as the absolute keystone here. It takes that high-level business direction from your business planning teams and translates it into structured, detailed direction. It then hands that structured direction off to the portfolio and project management teams so they can deliver actual, tangible solutions. Finally, operations management takes those delivered solutions, integrates them, and keeps them running. It's all connected. These frameworks complement each other and work in close harmony.
Section 6. Equipping for long-term success. Our foundation is practically poured. The final step is equipping the team with the right tools for the long haul.
So, our organizational model is set. The principles are defined, and the frameworks are merged. Now we hit the great debate in architecture: tool standardization. Do you go with a single one-size-fits-all tool? It gives you reduced training, shared licenses, and easier data interchange. Or do you adopt a multi-tool suite that might better accommodate different maturity levels across the enterprise and encourage some commercial innovation? Well, the source text tells us that the most successful enterprise architecture teams are the ones that harmonize their toolset with their actual maturity level and specific objectives. Remember that incremental adoption strategy we talked about? If you're doing that, start with lightweight, specialized tools for specific departments before forcing a massive, heavy single-suite tool onto an organization that just isn't ready for it yet.
And with that tool strategy defined, we've done it. We have successfully reached a massive milestone. Our hypothetical organization has officially transitioned from a chaotic blank slate to a fully equipped, governed, and ready state. We have essentially created an architecture for our own enterprise architecture capability. How cool is that?
So, the crucial point is this: success in architecture doesn't start with designing solutions. It starts with preparation. We mapped our enterprise scope, we secured our sponsors and built governance, we defined our guiding principles, we carefully merged our architecture framework with our existing business operations, and we strategically equipped our team with the right tools based on where we're actually at. We followed the preliminary phase to the letter, setting ourselves up for long-term wins.
Which leaves me with a final thought for you to consider today. Look at your own team's journey. Is your organization truly prepared to build its architecture using these milestones? Or are you already pouring the concrete without a finalized top-down blueprint? Take a step back, run through the preliminary phase, and build your foundation the right way. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.